obviously very accepting and open.
I don't care. He can do what he wants to do, I think.
Yeah.
But it is funny that we're doing it in person. I'm glad that we're doing it in person.
I was like shocked because I'm gonna be honest, it was a little.
I don't even want people to give attention to Drew Pavlou. Like, this guy obviously grifted his way to the top. Like, why the fuck should he deserve any kind of attention like this? Like, this guy literally just fails upwards.
A little bit of an interesting journey, the back and forth, somewhat on like logistics.
Oh, it's hard to
I mean, it's hard with the time like difference sometimes. But there was at one point like, let's do a live event, let's do this. But like we were trying to get our schedules worked out. I'm glad everything worked out.
I did have a stupid idea where I was like, Pisco, you should do a ticketed event. And then
like,
the reason I wanted
in a week, how am I going to do it in a week?
The reason I wanted to do that is like, there's actually so many people I wanted to meet, but I just was like,
it's an amazingly bad debate. Oh,
it's so
boy.
hard because there's just so many things to do in New York, and I had to mainly see family.
So number one was me, and number two was the Groyper
Brilliant,
gay OnlyFans model.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's good to be in your home.
Someone said they look like brothers, which is funny.
We are brothers.
I hesitate to cover Ace because this guy is like clearly mentally disabled, you know?
So my brother lives in New York, and people always think he's Hispanic, which is very funny. So
and you're not white. You agree with that, right?
Right-wing
Look, it's a funny thing. Like, there's actually a funny debate about this. You know what's funny, Pisco? Like, look, when I was lefty, and when I was lefty, the tankies who hated me because I was like anti-CCP and stuff like that, they would always say Drew's like a white guy who's like a racist, white privilege, blah blah blah. And then since I became a bit more conservative,
this is not a white man.
I don't know. Look,
you're not a white man,
dude. Drew, wait, okay, so Drew went from, like, what, being a tanky to being a hardcore liberal to 180ing to become a, like, hard right-wing conservative? Like, this guy grifted across the entire fucking spectrum. Then,
look,
right?
Can I say the N-word? I can't.
No.
I'm not going to do it. I'm just saying, like, if I'm rapping along to my favorite songs and stuff, I do genuinely swap out the words because I don't want to get in trouble.
You swap it out because you don't want to get in trouble? Or because,
I do, because I don't want to get in trouble.
No, but, like, don't you feel black? Like, you're always posting Malcolm X.
Yeah, that's true. I do. No, but, well, you know what's funny? Like, legit growing up,
Drew was big in the anti-CCP sphere? Okay.
I'm not even taking the piss here. Growing up, for some reason, I did identify a lot with the African-American experience.
I don't know if okay. I'm good. Okay, I'm good. I think I'm good. Okay, I'm good. Oh, my name is Drew Pavlou. Growing up, I identify a lot with the African American experience. I don't know if I could. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm be real with y'all. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I can't do it. Growing up, I have a lot of experience. I identify a lot with the African American experience. Oh my. You're like, bro, somebody who lives in the United States and grew up in Beverly Hills is more black than you, okay? The whitest motherfucker in the US is blacker than you. I just... Okay.
I loved rap music so much growing up. Like,
and that's of course why you're wearing a NASCAR jacket.
There's no political meaning here. I just found it on the street in like the East Village, and I thought it was cool, so I got it.
Speaking of the street, did you enjoy the deep cleaned subways, courtesy of our new
Zaram Mamdani?
Yes,
look,
talk about it. Yeah.
This is probably one of the biggest culture shocks to me as an Australian. So, like, look, one, New York's the only walkable city in America. Obviously, like
the only walkable city.
Probably, right? Like, you don't really have like urbanism in other America.
That's not true. San Francisco. That's not true. That's just straight up not true. There's like a bunch of fucking cities that are walkable. What is he on about?
Cities, right?
I think that there's a lot of places that are certainly not walkable. You're right about that. But
it's very car-centric. But Australia's the same. And so, it's amazing to come to New York because it's
yeah,
kind of
Boston,
like a European city in the sense that you can walk everywhere and everything.
Motherfucker, I swear to God, this guy is like, he lives to rage bait, okay? He literally lives to rage bait, okay? His entire grift is farming impressions off of rage baiting on Twitter, on X, okay? Yeah, that's literally what he aims for. Also, like, San Francisco... I feel like San Francisco is more European city coded than New York, no? Like, where the fuck is the green in New York outside of Central Park? Yeah, stupid. Walkable cities tend to be the older parts of a city, yeah.
probably the biggest culture shock to me is it is the extremes of wealth and poverty, because like, look, you do go into Subway, and probably a couple times, like, there's been situations where it's probably been a little bit unsafe. I'm not trying to go all law and order here, but there was a crazy time, and I'm going to write a Substack about this, but I was at the 42nd Street station at Times Square at about midnight, going home to the hotel, and this guy was on the platform, and he was like, he was obviously like very mentally disturbed. He was sort of like lunging around. He was acting very erratically. He was ripping down posters off the wall and sort of like lunging across and he was only a couple yards away from me. And he sort of turned around, and I saw this massive kitchen knife down the back of his pants, and I walked off the platform.
You should write for the New York Post. I mean, that's
And what was the skin color of this person?
pretty much every week's story.
Well, actually, I tried to contact the journalist, and everyone's like, no, that happens all the time here, Drew. But it is kind of strange. Look, when you...
Dude, I don't believe this guy even for a second. I'm sorry, I don't believe this motherfucker. This guy invents shit out of thin air, okay? Oh, it's the CCP was the one that locked me up in Australia. Like, this guy is like dumbing down his original fucking narrative all the fucking time, mate.
I think that is probably one of the most culture shock things in Australia that Trump's ever done or said. But I think that there's more opposition to Marxist-Leninists on the right than on the left, and that's why I've become right-wing.
Because of the...
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. The reason why he turned right-wing, the catalyst, was the Charlie Kirk shooting. He has literally not even demonstrated... He doesn't even talk about it like this before the Charlie Kirk shit.
urgent need to fight communism in America and in Australia.
Well, I know that there's no risk of Australia and America going communist necessarily, but there is a risk of that early 1970s style political violence initiated by left-wing militants. There is a risk of that. In Germany recently, there was a sabotage attack by a left-wing militant group that literally killed people because they put the energy system down and people died of freezing cold in winter temperatures. So
I'm seeing ICE do insane shit. I'm seeing our country descend into further authoritarianism.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Someone said Drew cheered for 100 dead Venezuelans an hour ago. Like, no.
You split. Thank you so much for the $10. I appreciate that.
Just a drink. A martini.
Not 100 dead Venezuelans. I'm talking about literally the people who were oppressing the Venezuelan people. And most of the people killed in that operation were literally the Cuban presidential guard, the people who were responsible. They were literally foreigners in Venezuela responsible for protecting the dictator from his own people.
Maybe if I had the inclination that you do, that we are at the precipice. You really do think we're at the precipice of like a major left-wing uprising in America and Australia.
I'll tell you what my worst case scenario is.
What do you think is likely? What do you think is
I think what is likely is this, and it's not. I'm not some kind of like deluded Fox News commentator who's going to say like, oh, there's going to be communism tomorrow in America. I don't believe that, right? What I think is actually a risk is that you see early 1970s style political violence en masse, and so that would involve thousands of sabotage attempts and bombings. That's what happened. That's with the Weather Underground and a number of militant terrorist groups that came from the extreme left. And I think that is definitely.
What are you on about? We're on the precipice of fascism. There are probably more underground right-wing extremists, like fucking race supremacists, than there will ever be, like, fucking Antifa LARPers. Like, how many Antifa LARPers do you think there are? Like, I feel like literally every single time I open the news or I open another article, there's like a new fucking, extreme right-wing, like, extremist group that is ready to act with guns and shit like that, like every single like 5 seconds, like that I've never heard of. In January 6th, it was the Oath Keepers. Wow, that's the first time I've ever heard of that. But then now there's like a 50 trillion more of these groups. Like, what are we talking about? Why are you? God, he's just so fucking spineless, dude. They're already in ICE. Yeah, ICE is the new one, I guess. Well, it's been a new one, but like, just God, peace. Wait, no.
Possibility, and I also think less.
But you know what? I understand, okay? Because if you are like debating someone in person, you're gonna be a lot nicer. And you know, that's just gonna be the reality, okay? If you're debating somebody in person, you're gonna be a lot nicer. And yeah, that's it. So I don't really want to fault I don't really fault Pisco too much for not pushing back hard enough, because in person it's just kind of hard to, because you see their face, they're right in front of you, and it's like, okay, don't be weird, right? Does that make sense? Otherwise I would follow him.
So in America, but probably it is a genuine
maybe
threat
not.
in
He is
Western
pushing
Europe and
back.
probably
Okay,
in
to be fair,
Australia
he
too.
is pushing back.
There is
Never mind.
enough
Never mind. Don't listen to me.
there is a large enough militant Islamist population in these countries that there could be a sustained trouble-style insurgency that involves from
Muslims
regular
in America.
Not in America. I think it's far less of a. I think Islamic extremism is far less of a problem in America compared to Australia and Western Europe. And you can tell from that point of view, like that's showing that I'm not a hack, because I can understand like there are different conditions in America to Western Europe and Australia. I do think in Western Europe and Australia there is the risk in the next 10 years that there could be a sustained period of endemic political violence initiated by Islamist extremists.
So make the case for me, because I think that if the Democrats were coming into an election, let's say Gavin Newsom against JD Vance, that right now it seems like the betting odds right now, but a lot can change.
Yeah.
Make me the case that I'm a person who believes in liberal values. I don't agree with extremists like Islamism. I'm not a Marxist-Leninist.
Yeah.
Make the case that I should be more worried about that than my country being torn apart by fascist bootlicking thugs.
Okay, I want to hear this. I want to hear this part, okay? Galax.
That we're seeing right now. Like, one thing we're not seeing in America, we're seeing isolated acts of violence, no doubt, but not to the scale and enormity of the kind of depravity of the Trump administration. Version 2.
That's an argument.
Tell me I should be more worried about that, which I don't think, at least as of now, I've been convinced is that much of a threat in America, and which people have been saying.
Well, it's not a threat to you. There's no, there would be no threat to you.
Wait,
like, Islam would not kill you if he came to power.
You don't think that I would protect your rights not to be killed by President Piker?
Sure, you would.
I would.
But I don't think you're at risk of these people. I am at risk of these people. If left-wing militants get
In Australia? Who the fuck is gonna be going to Australia to kill you? Drew, nobody even cares about you. Nobody even gives a fuck about you.
more power in the West, I am at risk, you're not at risk.
Okay, but all right, you can say that. Whatever, fine. But put that to the side for a second.
Okay.
My personal health and safety, your personal health and safety, and let's just talk about the overall risk assessment.
Yeah.
We're coming into elections and stuff.
Yes.
Tell me why I should be more worried about this, especially in light of the fact.
Arc Raiders, where I'm at. Arc Raiders, come in. Arc Raiders, come in. I need your power to combat the cringe, okay?
That for decades we've been told there's communists lurking behind every school. They're in your neighborhood. They're actually there.
In the 50s, there actually was massive. Like, it's real. Like, the Rosenbergs literally leaked the reason why the Soviet Union got the nuclear bomb.
No, yeah.
But the reason why the Soviets got the nuclear bomb was because there was intelligence.
There's espionage. Yes, there's always been espionage. And absolutely true. But the Iron Curtain is lifted. There's no more Soviet Union. I agree Russia's a threat. It's a geostrategic threat, huge threat. I hate the state of Russia. I hate Putin, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I'm against. That's another reason I'm against Trump. Why am I against Trump? Well, I want to keep NATO together.
And I agree with that. My biggest disagreement.
Russia. So just keep that in mind.
That is my biggest disagreement with Trump. Okay. My biggest disagreement with Trump is the Greenland
Trump
stuff
is destroying the West alliance. He's destroying Western alliances.
Look, I will say very strongly, I strongly disagree with Trump's approach to Europe. I think.
What are you talking about? Strongly disagree, motherfucker. He is like. Have you seen the leak signal group chat? Like how much they actually fucking despise Europe? It's not just oh I strongly disagree. It's like they're literally trying to become the Fourth Reich.
They're right to criticize the European governments for allowing too high levels of immigration to the point that it massively changes the character of the country. But I do strongly disagree with his threats against NATO and Ukraine.
We've been told by reactionaries for decades.
Looks like I'll have to get Act Raiders.
Yo, hey, thank you so much for the $5. Yes, you do. Thank you. I'll play with you.
In decades, they're coming. And there have been, there's atomic espionage, no doubt.
In the 70s, there were 5,000, there were literally 5,000 political bombings in the West. In the United States, there were, from the year 1970 to 1973, there were literally like 5,000 political bombings initiated by
left-wing. There have been bombings by right-wing reactionaries, Oklahoma City bombing, there's been
True, but there was more, there were, in terms of the actual number of instances, it didn't kill that many people, but the sheer number, the sheer volume
but our
of political
democratic
bombings
leaders,
from the left-wing militants.
The leaders from the left in this country, the most left-wing president in our history has been Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. He's been.
Is it weird that they aren't looking at each other? I feel like I've gotten kind of used to it. Like if you're in person and you're right next to each other and you're trying to stream and shit, like your face needs to be facing the chat. Okay, your face needs to be facing the screen. If your head is turned a little bit and whatever, like you're not going to be as impressionable. I understand. Okay, production. Okay.
The most left wing.
I didn't hate Biden.
And the guy's a dinosaur, and the guy is an anti-communist, and the guy
Can you
is.
Imagine if my face was like this.
So like we're not in danger of this.
Yeah,
the mainstream of the Democratic center left in this country are based libs who want their country back from the thug.
Also, not only that, like if you check out OBS, right? Because OBS is going to be open on Pisco's end, right? Like you're going to see his face anyway. Like that's just going to be the reality, right?
From the barbarians who are running it. The barbarians who are running it are Americans. are other Americans who have given up on the country, and we want to get the barbarians out. And that's what the center-left Democrats want. And we want a common cause with the people who want to get the barbarians out of the White House.
Okay, this is actually very disturbing to me, because listen, because you're labeling a huge section of the country, tens of millions of people.
No, the elites, the MAGA elites who have been installed in the White House, these freaks of nature.
Well, you say installed. There was a Democratic election that elected Trump.
You know this. They're
Okay, never mind. I'm a Pisco fan again. Dude, I can't stand this absolute piece of trash. I just can't stand this absolute grifting piece of trash, dude. Oh my god. This is the guy that I hate more than anybody else, probably, because he's so schmarmy. Just so schmarmy, you know?
upset because of the economic conditions. They're upset because of inflation. They're upset because of prices. So yes, the people turn to a demagogue. It's
anyone next to Drew will turn me into a fan.
You fundamentally disagree with, like,
I don't disagree with democracy. I'm trying to use democracy to stop the threat against democracy.
Okay, but you do fundamentally see the election of Trump as illegitimate.
No, well, it depends what you mean by that. Well, it depends what you mean by that. I think it's I think he's unconstitutional. I don't actually think he is the president at the moment. Let me tell you why. I think he's ineligible for the office of president. I believe that.
Oh, I like that. I like that argument. That argument speaks to me in a sexy manner. Okay? I don't think he's president because he's mentally illegitimate for the office of president. Spit. It's time to spit.
That's a pretty large view. Like, I think he did win the election.
He definitely won the election. He definitely was the winner of the election. I'm not denying that he also is occupying the office. I'm not arguing that he's not using the authorities and acting under color of law as a de facto officer. What I think is that he is ineligible to the office. That's a separate legal point that I have.
Because of January 6th, you're gonna argue.
Yeah, Section 3, yeah.
Bro, Food, not gonna lie, bro, you might be special. What the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean by that? What the fuck you mean by special?
Okay.
That hasn't been, according to the Supreme Court. Congress has to enforce it, but just because Congress has to enforce it, doesn't mean he's not ineligible.
80 million Americans voted for him.
I'm not saying that he didn't. I'm not saying he didn't win the majority of the vote. I'm not saying that he isn't currently occupying the office. What I'm saying is only the following. I'm not calling everyone who voted.
He's ineligible based on January 6th insurrection. I get it now. I forgot that January 6th happened.
For Trump a barbarian. The MAGA elites who are in the White House at the moment are destroying our country. They're ruining our country, and they're being supported by these tech oligarchs like Elon Musk.
So what would you do to all these
people who are disgusting freaks?
If you had the full political power, what would you do to them then?
I would charge them for the crimes that they're committed.
So you want to have mass roundups of your opposition?
No. Give them trials, give them all the rights they want, and charge them for specific offenses. I have never said that we should just do political crimes. I think that Trump should be charged for the crimes he committed. Just like you think that people who commit crimes should be charged who are members of opposing you, I'm assuming. But I've always been in favor of giving them complete rights. That's why I take a close eye on a lot of these cases with Trump and what happened in the state courts and what happened in the federal courts.
Look at the comments. I hope Drew goes to heaven ASAP. Like I'm getting this all the time.
Hey guys.
Amen. Stop.
Guys, hey, that actually is against our rules. Do not wish death or heaven. Well, you can say that you would.
Come on. Do you not want someone to go to heaven? My brother in Christ, do you not want someone to go to heaven? We must preach.
Wish that if Drew does, you would go to heaven.
We know what he's saying. We know what he's saying. Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm getting this all the time, and there's a significant factor in me just genuinely coming to view the left as a threat.
Wait, Pisco has rules? Wow, that's crazy. Oh, I wouldn't have understood that from all this snarking that is happening, right? Oh, okay.
To me personally, as an individual, I'm just saying.
That shouldn't be the calculus of your political alignment, though, right? Because your safety, I understand that it can definitely be a realistic reason, a descriptive reason why you're there. But when you step back and ponder in your chair, who is Drew Pavlou? Is Drew Pavlou just influenced by the politics that makes him physically safer?
No, it's not even that. It's just that this sort of the years and years of threat.
Physically safer where? You are physically the most unsafe when you go to Waffle House because you're gonna get type 2 diabetes. All right? Waffle House has probably killed more Americans than violent crime by black people. Waffle House.
Threats and you know, actual attempts on my life, like in 2022.
I condemn.
Like I also condemn anything against Pisco, right? Thank you, Pisco. But look, in 2023, I got called in by the Australian Federal Police, equivalent of the FBI. They said in 2022 we detected like a plot against your life essentially in Australia by agents of the Chinese government, and we raided these people. They didn't say agents of the Chinese government, but it was very obvious because another friend of mine who was a Chinese dissident had the exact same conversation in a very similar period. When I went public with that, I had so many like bad empanada fans,
Strain in the voice. What did I say?
I wish they fucking did it. So it's just like. It darkens my view of human nature, and it makes me think, okay, these people have power. They want to do horrible things. They want to kill me and my family. And that's why, overall, I would align myself more with the right. That doesn't necessarily mean I agree with everything that Trump
Your family wants you to find a real job.
Said or done. I wish that he would be a bit less radical sometimes. I think you're right that he goes a bit too radical. Not even a bit too. He goes very radical sometimes. I disagree with that. And look, there are plenty of things that I disagree with. I disagree with them on Ukraine and Greenland and Europe.
Aren't these like literally the most important foreign political issues though? Ukraine and Europe, that's like literally everything. What are you talking about? Like, why the fuck are you saying like, oh well, I disagree on this and that? Motherfucker, these are literally the most important issues. Like, what else is there? Like fucking Zimbabwe? Like, hello?
I think there are some broad areas of agreement. I think America has to have border enforcement. I think America...
Yeah, but Biden thought that. Biden tried to pass a border bill, and he was rebuffed by Trump. The Democratic presidents have enforced the border. Biden had 2 million plus refusals at the border.
Yes, there's 2 million refused, but there were like 10 million who did enter the country, was it not?
Yeah, because of
a huge number.
Things out of his control. Things, for example, like the humanitarian crises in Venezuela and places like, for example, El Salvador, where they were fleeing the conditions to the anger, to the hatred of the MAGA elites who castigated the people coming in as essentially.
I'm ready to castigate Drew.
Is there a single action by MAGA elites or the Trump administration that you think is legal and acceptable? Because it seems that you basically think like just full stop from the second that he got elected, he should just be completely.
Well, I think their budget, the continuing resolution, is probably legal. I think that their the Big Beautiful Bill, the Lake and Riley Act, those are probably legal. I don't know. I don't agree with them on a policy perspective. Are you asking me, is there a single thing that Trump said I agree with?
No, I mean, I'm just saying, like, to what extent do you actually regard, like, sort of like right-wing political opposition in America as legitimate? Because it seems.
Depends what you mean by legitimate. If what you mean by legitimate,
like, I don't know, like, if you don't like Trump, would there be, say, like a Republican president that you would not necessarily be scared by, or you'd think would be reasonably normal?
I wouldn't be scared by which I mean, I wouldn't think that we are in an existential state with a Mitt Romney presidency. I don't think we'd be in an existential state.
The interesting thing is that the interesting thing is if you go back to 2012, there were a lot of Democrats who treated Mitt Romney as like a existential threat, and they hated him so much, even though he like.
Well, I wouldn't have voted for him in 2012.
I'm not saying you have to vote. I'm not saying you have to.
Bro, there is always groups of people who think that insert politician here is an existential threat. There will always be groups of that people. It's not indicative of anything. It's not indicative of anything. The same Trumpers who thinks that Trump is doing a good job with Russia right now, right, by being buddy-buddy with Vladimir Putin, are like the same Americans who were affected by the Red Scare. These motherfuckers are inconsistent. Why does it matter what they feel? What about the cold, hard facts?
To vote for him, but there were a lot of sort of Democrats or center leftists who regarded Mitt Romney as like epitome of evil.
On my sleeve, I'm a liberal Democrat, and
I'm saying it's not. I'm not saying
there
you
are
have
honorable
to vote
Republicans. There are honorable Republicans. I mean, Trump makes Nixon look like a great guy in retrospect.
I like Nixon. I think he was
I think he was a crook. I think he was a complete crook. But
I think he was a misunderstood guy.
By comparison, I don't even know why Watergate's like that bad. Like compared to all the shit that's happening on with Trump. I want to get to these strikes. I want to get to
what do you think is actually the worst thing that he's done?
That he's done?
Yeah. Is it January 6th? You think is the worst thing?
As a person or as a president?
I'm interested both. What do you think is the worst thing?
Yeah, I think trying to destroy an American election.
Dude, there's a whole list. God, I don't even know which one is worse. I don't know if Trump coin is worse, or like the fucking president doing a fucking cryptocurrency scam. How fucking absurd is that, right? How fucking absurd is the fucking president of the United States of the free world, like doing a fucking cryptocurrency scam? Are we living in the proper timeline? Do we miss a canon event? Do we need like fucking Diego from Spider-Verse to reset the timeline? Like do we need like Loki to like erase this timeline? Like what do we need?
That was legal and fair and thereby like undo essentially a major part of our constitutional order and upset an unbroken streak going back to the Civil War was probably among the worst things that he did.
I think January 6th was bad. I think it was very bad.
I want to get.
I'm split between January 6th, like the entire January 6th conspiracy, and Trump coin. That's what I'm split by. There's like a whole list of items that are horrible, but there are some that are particularly more horrible than others. It's not a competition, of course. They're all horrible, and all of them are impeachable. But if I really have to not like that. But again, if I really have to think about it, if I really have to think about it, like the Michigan slate electors and shit like that was unacceptable. Like that shit was heinous. The Michigan slate electors, yeah. Like, wow. Wait, can I just avoid the bombardier by doing this? Wait, like if I just zigzag really, really slowly? Wait, what the fuck? This works? Wait, zigzagging really, really slowly works? You see the shit? What? Wait, hold on. Okay, never mind. I tested my luck a little bit too hard. I thought I broke the game. Hacker man? Come on. Hi? Hello? Shit. Sorry.
To the strikes, I want to get to the interventions and talk about. Yeah, we mentioned it a little bit. We previewed it a little bit. But before I do, why are you white?
Why am I white? It's a good question. Look, it's just in response to the fact that pretty much all my life, people have treated me as white. Like growing up, I was told that
you're white. You're white if you're treated as white.
Yeah, I fully admit that like race is basically very much a sort of like socially contingent thing. Like, look, growing up, I was told that I had white male privilege all the time. Growing up in school, I was told that. Growing up, yeah, all the time, all my life, like I was treated as white. And the other day, I was hanging out with my Nigerian friend who's obviously a black guy, and I asked him like, "Hey, some guys on Twitter say that."
Wait, does that mean I'm Jewish if I'm treated like a Jew? Okay.
That I'm not white. Like, what do you think? He just said, "Yeah, you're fucking white, Drew." And he's Nigerian, and he just thought that I was white.
So you're white because your name is Drew.
No,
Drew's a pretty white name.
That's not what I'm saying. I think
Drew Pickles.
So confused.
I think it's just that, you know, for all my life I've been treated as a white person, and I was told in school that I had, you know, white colonizer male privilege.
Who
and
said that to you?
No, like that's sort of like underlying message that you get.
Was it a woman with a pixie cut and
I would obviously no one actually straight up said to my face, "You are guilty," but you get that sort of vibe. It's a very strong leftist sort of streak in Australia right now, where basically the country is viewed as illegitimate from its founding as a sort of genocidal settler colony, and you need to be guilty, and you need to feel guilt about what happened to you.
Can we break that apart? So you agree that, I mean, I would agree that the American colonialists were definitionally settler colonial and genocidal. I mean, you wouldn't doubt that.
I don't necessarily think that they were genocidal. There were killings, obviously. There was a war for territory and land. And look, I don't endorse killing. This was a different era. It was hundreds of years ago. But I don't think...
You don't endorse killing? That's very controversial, Drew. Tell us more. Profound.
That you should say that the essential founding of the country is illegitimate.
I'm not saying it's listen, there are a lot of countries that are founded on genocide, ideas.
Look, in Australia, at least, maybe it's different in America, because it seems in America that even most Democrats will say that America is a legitimate country. But in Australia, it's very, very common.
It's going down in VC.
It's very common in Australia.
Can you tell them to get into Grill or settle their shit on stream? We need to form content out of that. Tell them to get on stream.
Basically say that, like, you know, Australia is stolen land. It doesn't have any legitimate basis to exist.
Well, let's talk a little bit.
There's even basically been a High Court of Australia legal opinion, the legal judgment Mabo.
Yeah,
where in Mabo, it's very interesting. If you read Mabo, the judges literally say, like, we understand that the implications of our decision destroy the legal skeleton of, like, the country. Like, it basically undermines the legal.
Let's ask the uncomfortable question, Drew.
But it's interesting in Mabo.
Let's get to this.
But one really quick thing though.
Yeah.
It is very fascinating, the Mabo decision. The judges basically say
it's Mabo, it's the vibe.
No, that's great. I'm glad that you know that. That's the best Australian film, The Castle. I recommend it to everyone. But it's very interesting. If you look at the Mabo decision, the judges freely say, we understand that our decision is basically saying that Australia was illegitimate from its founding, but we also rule that that should not be allowed, that should not itself destroy the entire legal system. So they actually sort of finessed it. It's a very complex thing where they actually admitted, the judges who ruled that decision admitted that they were basically morally kicking the floor out of the sort of country's foundation. They had this sort of emergency sort of backstop in that sort of judgment where they said, like, you know, our ruling should not be taken to completely dismantle the entire legal infrastructure of Australia. But it is interesting, and I've read sort of like, I was doing my first year of law degree the other year, and very cool. And I was reading a journal article that we were asked to read for the thing. And it was sort of these like very radical sort of, I would call them race communist academics, who were saying that Mabo was not far enough because the judges acknowledged that it kicked the floor out of the sort of moral foundations of Australia's founding, but they didn't go far enough in actually literally dissolving Australia in that decision, which is crazy. But that's literally a legal decision that we were.
I want to take this step by step. I think it's a very.
Yeah, so what? What's your point? So because people, some fucking wackos advocated for Australia to be dissolved, now you're like pro-Trump? Can you please make it make sense, please, Drew? Can you please make it make sense? So a bunch of wackos, a bunch of cringe lefties want to dissolve Australia, and that made you what? That's a supporting point for you being pro-Trump now? Are you stupid?
Very fascinating part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to ultimately conclude with, I don't want us to have to destroy America and give it back to the descendants of American Indians, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say the same thing about Australia, right?
Yeah.
So we agree on the conclusion there. But I'm not actually sure that some of the descriptive claims made by some of these woke lefties with pixie cuts are actually wrong.
The problem is, though, I think the problem is, though, like,
Pixie reference?
it's almost impossible to have this conversation where you separate the descriptive claim from the, you know, the moral conclusions from it. So I'll give you an example. Okay. Obviously, in a Western country, regardless of the fact that these days it's basically secular, I think we are very much marinated in a sort of Christian moral ethical culture.
But I mean,
and so it's very simple. Like, we are taught from a very early age that theft is wrong. And we are taught that if something is stolen, it has to be returned. That is the only morally legitimate outcome. So it's very hard for us when we are raised in this kind of environment where even the secular morality is very much influenced by that sort of Christian ethic. It's very hard to say, well, the nation is stolen, but we shouldn't have to give it back. Because I think that I
should be able to separate.
Wait, so you're like, but you support a thief. You support a nation thief. The guy is like corrupting America. He's turning it into fucking Nazi Germany. Like, literally. Like, there's no other comparison. Like, that's the only comparison I feel like I can make. No?
Separate those things because they're different claims. One is what ought to be done, and one is what happened. And they are different, right?
Are they different?
Are they different? Are they different? They're different. They're different, aren't they?
I think
are they different? Are they different? Answer, and then you can explain.
Yes.
Okay.
Philosophically, they're different, Pisco. Yes. But here's the thing, though. I think that the vast majority of people are not able to separate those two things. And when we have these conversations,
we're reasonable, so we can separate them, all right?
So reasonably, we can both agree that there were terrible acts that were done against.
That's not what I want to get to. I want to get to these lefties who have been maligned by you, and I want to assess their descriptive claims. And then you and I, we already know we align on on some of the prescriptions.
Okay,
because we don't want to.
I can descriptively say to you that yes, there were massacres of indigenous.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
There were murders. There were terrible killings.
Let's do it step by step.
Okay.
Settler, colonial, no doubt.
Yes, they were settler colonizers.
Okay. In American Australia, they committed acts of genocide, no doubt, right?
I don't think that they were inherently genocidal. There were massacres of Native Americans that were wrong. I agree with that.
Not just massacres; they were trying to cleanse the land at times of different.
Wait, is that true? Like, they weren't just like they were genocidal, as in like their primary goal was the complete eradication of a singular species, or is it like, or is that like a lefty shtick? Because I don't trust anyone to give me like that kind of narrative. I don't know, like I just don't trust it. I feel like the way that people talk about it is kind of cucked.
Different of these groups, and
there were massacres. There were massacres. There were acts of obviously.
They literally tried to wipe them out of existence by making them breed with whites. Okay, that's definitely genocidal. Yeah, that's definitely genocidal. What? Okay, gotcha.
Gross human rights violations, atrocities. Of course, there were atrocities.
Yeah, that's definitely
genocide.
Genocidal.
Really, just reserved for the Holocaust, and that's it.
Look, I think it's an extremely high bar to say that the plan of every single European who ever came to Australia in that first like sort of 50 years of actual settler colonizer.
Yeah, but you can say that Germany. Not every German wanted it. Not every Nazi wanted it.
No, distinction.
What?
Okay. Firstly, like, we have to recognize that.
I'd argue that what was done to the Native American population constitutes genocide. Like, you mean that there was a systemic plan and actions being taken to essentially forever eradicate like tribes? from existence? Like that was the sole intention of it, like on the race. Like not as a byproduct.
Even today, even though, like, it's so obvious that today America and Australia are not settler colonies today, but there are many leftists who will still argue that they are still settler colonies.
I don't know, but
so the argument that a lot of leftists make is that it was still settler
yes,
colonies.
they were. Okay.
We can set that aside.
Their history.
Okay, historically.
Colonial
Look, if you actually look at the history of, I'm not fully versed in the American thing, but if you look at the history in Australia, there were multiple proclamations by the Crown, the actual British authorities, who said there should not be murders of Indigenous Australians, and there were multiple instances where the British settlers who did massacre Indigenous Australians were actually put to death by the British authorities. So we know that there was an official.
Wait, hold on. Which country are they talking about again? Boarding schools. Canada? They're talking about Canada, right?
Don't believe it was the official policy to genocide anybody, and the British authorities actually at times, obviously not enough, but at times they actually even executed people for massacring Indigenous Australians.
Oh, in Australia.
So on that view, then definitionally, China's not committed a genocide against the Uyghurs.
No, because the Chinese. Do you think the Chinese Communist Party is like executing people for violation of Uyghur human rights? No, not at all. They're still violating the human rights today.
So they're human rights violations, but your view of genocide is that it needs to be that genocidal acts must emanate from some sort of central source.
Not necessarily. I think you could probably say that, isolated. There were, like, for example, if there was a massacre of Indigenous Australians, like if you gave me, for example, one particular massacre that was, that was directly racially motivated, you could say that individual act was genocidal.
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't believe it's right to tar all Australians with the sort of like the blood guilt of genocide and say that the entire Australian founding was genocidal and that the.
Is anybody even doing that outside of like fucking TikTok lefties and people on fucking Blue Sky? Like how many people are there? Like are the liberals saying that? Are the liberals saying that, oh well, like the entirety of Australia and all Australians are like guilty for the crimes of their forefathers? Liberals.
The entire Australian colonial project.
I think a really dishonest part of this is that Drew is trying to paint the liberals as lefties.
Was genocidal and that Australia is from its core genocidal, which is the claim that the leftists make.
Yeah.
Yes, and I've said this many times. There were acts of individual horrible violence against Indigenous Australians. They were treated unfairly, but that does not mean that Australia should be dismantled today. And I'm ultimately happy that Europeans went to Australia because otherwise I would not have my life. I would not have existed, Pisco.
So here's my.
I ultimately believe this is where I'll get cancelled. I ultimately believe that the European colonization of the Americas
was good.
And well, if it was not good, then I could not have existed.
Well, that's what I mean. Like it seems like your entire outlook.
Tell me more.
Look, has to do with making sure you exist and continue to exist, right? Anything that would.
It's self-hatred, though. Should I say that I should not have been born because Australia is genocidal?
I'm not saying that. I'm just.
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me to say what I want to say.
It's just funny to me that your determinations as to the morality of stuff ultimately bear on whether something is imperiling you having existed at all / continuing to exist.
Well, I think that's pretty reasonable. Like, I don't think that it's a smart thing to do to go around basically saying, like, I should not exist. I will agree with a sort of moral philosophical system that says that I should not exist.
Okay,
I think
tell
that's
us more.
Okay. So
tell us
I heard what you said.
So I'm ultimately happy that the British went to Australia. Is that a wrong thing?
So why aren't you happy that the immigrants are coming to America and Australia?
Well, it's different. There's different sources. It's different. It's different.
They're doing less worse acts than
it's different. It's different streams, Pisco. It's different.
Why? Why is it different?
Because in both these cases, there were nations that were founded, new nations.
Pisco is doing really good pushing back. No, he is pushing back well. I like. Okay, don't let your hatred of Pisco paint your objective view of the situation. Okay, I have no qualms with Pisco. Okay. In this one.
But there were tribes. They had their own spheres of sovereignty. Yes, they had different senses of property than understood by the old worlds. But there was still an understanding that there was domains. These were people. I
don't think they should have been. I don't agree with violence.
But this is the kind of Pisco content I wish that Pisco would just do all the time. Like, I don't like it when he tries to defend the lefties all the time. I don't like it when he's like defending Hassan and shit like that. This is the content I want out of Pisco, not whatever the fucking Destiny versus Pisco content was. Well, I mean, like, it was entertaining at least, but
in that way.
You know,
this was hundreds of years ago. This was hundreds of years ago, and the world was very different.
That's an excuse not to think.
Misaki, where are you?
That is a state of exception. And what you're saying is, yes, it was good for them to immigrate to these different places, to set up their flags, and you don't have a problem given that the natural tendency was to lead to a bunch
there's a difference between founding a new nation and then coming to the nation 200 years after it was founded, and then or 300 years after it was founded.
But it's premised on a notion that you don't recognize the nationhood of the various different tribes in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander tribes.
I don't recognize them as a separate nation.
And why is that? Because they're not a people?
No, they are a people, and they should.
Are the Palestinians a people?
Yes, they are a people, and I do believe in a Palestinian statehood. But are you really asking me here to endorse like a separate Aboriginal?
Why, if you believe in a Palestinian statehood, why the fuck would you support Trump? Why would you support Trump? This guy is enabling Netanyahu to carry out ethnic cleansing.
Original state in Australia, like an Aboriginal.
That's exactly what.
It seems like that's what you're asking me to do.
That's exactly.
You want me to acknowledge their nation?
No, that's exactly what I'm not trying to do. I'm trying to.
It's like Drew Pavlou is like, well, I disagree with Trump on 99% of things, but what? But what, motherfucker? You feel safer in Australia? On an island? Surrounded by water? Hello?
Part out why it was.
What the fuck is an immigrant from Mexico supposed to do? Canoe their way all the way to fucking Australia?
Good for the Europeans to go to these areas, take them over, and in so doing, necessarily take upon horrific acts. But immigrants who are doing 0.00001% of that and just trying to live within the confines of these different countries, you have disdain for them. You say
not necessarily, not everyone. I think that there is still a level of immigration that can be good for society, and I don't think anybody should ever be like barred.
That's great, but that's not the position of MAGA. Okay, they'll say, "Oh, we like the ones who come in legally," but then you try to like point them towards examples, and there's nothing. They just want all of them out, actually.
Based on race or whatever. I just think like if you're going to import infinity amounts of people from extremely poor countries, it's going to change the culture of the majority country. And
whether illegal or
my
illegally.
loyalty is to the West. I'm happy. I was born in a Western country. It's my culture. It's my identity. It's what I love.
Well, I don't think that you're personally responsible for the genocides that happened in America or Australia.
And if I could press a button that they would not like if I don't like the fact that indigenous people were killed hundreds of years ago. I think that's sad. But I.
Oh my god, Drew Pavlou, nobody ever wants to hear you speak, okay? Why don't you just, like, go down to the nearest McDonald's and go chow down, like, 5 Big Macs or something? Holy shit, that's what you're good at, okay? Your political commentary is, like, fucking lacking.
I don't think that Australia should not exist. I don't think that America should not exist. I think it's better for...
And given that your ancestors were probably from the Anglo Australia, I think you're not responsible either by blood either.
But I think overall, for human history, it is better that America existed. It's better that Australia existed.
And I want to preserve America. I don't want to.
And the amazing thing as well is this is also a fact, Pisco. Like life expectancy among Indigenous Australians in like prior to British colonization was literally in the 30s, and infant mortality was way off the charts, and there was massive amounts of violence. Like it was. You won't
even give them the voice. Well, you won't even give them the voice.
I don't believe in racially separate. I don't believe in establishing racially separate. Houses of parliament, like essentially.
Yeah, but it's not an official functionary that can enact legislation by itself. I
don't believe in establishing in the Constitution separate categories of Australians based on race.
But there's like in the American context as well. There's this kind of like I talked about this in my debate about birthright citizenship with Ryan Mullally. There's a peculiarity to the history.
I feel like that's a complicated discussion, but that's a discussion that Drew shouldn't be having. Okay. Because I have talked about that before. Basically, in Australia's constitution, there is literally racial divides outlined within the constitution. Like, there has to be an allocated representative of the Aboriginals, like Aborigines of Australia or something, like of the natives and shit like that. There has to be some kind of classified representation. But that's a topic that's complicated and it's not easy to talk about. Like, yeah.
Of American Indians that, we have specific case law and specific categories of sovereignty in the United States. For American Indians, it's marginal. It's not dominant, but it exists and we haven't fallen apart. What's actually threatening our government aren't the American Indians and natives who still live. It's the natives, the new natives. That is to say, the people who have abandoned the project of America. This is Trump.
The colonizers. The colonizers. It's the colonizers. It's Trump.
Is JD Vance, and they've abandoned it not just in the domestic sense, but in our stage globally. And I want to get to
like one thing there, you're kind of defining the entire American project as just always being pro-immigration, just always being like racial,
as pro-constitution, because Lincoln
like
said,
you know as well as I do, like there were massive periods of American history where, like, you know, there was massive racism.
No, of course. Yeah. The project here I'm not defining as open borders or love everybody. Okay, America has never lived up to that ideal. But what did Lincoln say at Gettysburg? Lincoln said at Gettysburg that government of the people, by the people, for the people. It's his hope, right, that it shall not perish from the earth. The Civil War.
I agree with that. I don't want to
fought between the North and the South wasn't just about the North and the South. Let me finish this point, and I'll let you get it. It was a fight for whether or not.
Wait, why is the top pinned comment on DGG is the lolly wars are over. Anyone who still wants to fight will be your opponents. Was there ever a lolly war? What? Okay, cool. Thank you. It's just what?
Democracy itself would perish from the earth because America was this experiment. It was this new thing. Our fathers brought forth on this continent, a new nation, and conceived in liberty, right? So this is the idea of America to me is so salient, and that's why I'm jealous.
I love that idea. I love that idea of America as well. I also just think though, like a particular nation produced that vision of liberty, and you can't just completely swap out the population of America.
I'm not saying you could completely do that. I don't. It sounds like Pearl, right? Did you see the Pearly Davis debate with Anna Kasparian?
I actually didn't see that.
She got crushed because
I don't know what Pearl say.
One of the hypotheticals, she was like, "What would you do? Do you have a plan, Anna, for when all men just step away from society?" And it's like, no, like that's not going to happen. And these kinds of alarmist speculations about the nature of our demographics, I think have never been borne out before. Yes, we're under a demographic changes, no doubt, but those have been persisting over decades. And I'm more concerned about the age demographics than the racial demographics. But putting that aside,
I don't think people should be defined based off race. I actually don't believe in, you know, racial stratification. At the same time, I just don't think that, like, when you rapidly change the demographics of a society, you create the potential for a lot of social tension and social pressure. And what I like about Lee Kuan Yew's approach in Singapore is he just basically achieves stable, like, ethnic demographics. He welcomes in diversity.
So you do want racial policies before you say, I don't want to give a voice because I don't want to legitimize any kind of racial policy or racial chamber.
It's not racial. Pisco.
It's ethnic.
Pisco.
Racial ethnic.
Pisco. What I like about the Lee Kuan Yew approach is there is still, people call Singapore a multicultural society, and it's true. It is a multicultural society. There's about the demographics are about 74% Han Chinese. It's about 20% Malaya and about 10% Muslim. It's basically been that rough mix for the past 50 years. They accept diversity. They accept migrants from all across the world. But
so what? And they're not the number one country. What's your point? And they're not the number one country. What's your point? Oh, great. They have the same ethnic makeup for like the past 50 years. Okay. Are they number one yet? Are they epic yet? Are they cool and awesome like us? Are they? Are they? Stupid, moron, retard.
They don't try to rapidly change it because they want to produce a level of social calm.
Do you think Biden is doing that?
I don't think there's like a deliberate plan necessarily.
If anyone has a deliberate plan on demographics, it's the Trump administration. They're calling things the third world, shithole countries. They're imposing these different restrictions based on.
I think Trumpism is like a break the glass emergency response. It's like a lot of right wing populism is a response to changing demographics, and I'm not endorsing everything they say.
Wait, Masaki, are you here? Oh shit! Wait. Oh, yes. Sorry. I was deafened. Masaki, as an Australian, what is your thoughts on Drew Pavlou?
I think he's kind of crazy, kind of grifty, and I don't know of any other Australians that support him. I feel like most people disown him.
Disown him? Wait, what do you mean? Is there even Australians who are aware of him? I thought he was just mainly an online personality.
I don't know. I don't really know much Australians personally, but like from what I've seen, a lot of people are like, yeah. I saw it even in Pisco's chat. There was someone who was like, as an Australian, can you keep Drew Pavlou there? We don't want him here. We don't own him. We don't claim him. So
yeah. Base alert. Okay. Thank you.
They'll do. I'm just saying, like, if leftists were smart, they wouldn't keep on endorsing massive changes to the structure and nature of societies, because that's what is producing more racism. That's what's actually producing more tension.
I think we're both conservatives in different senses. I think I'm conservative with respect to our republic. And I think that you maybe are conservative with respect to demographics.
I actually think that if you, like, obviously this is just a thought experiment, but just tomorrow, for example, if America tomorrow, like, the population just became, I don't know, say like 300 million
Somalis.
No, I don't know, like 300 million, like, I don't know, Chinese people, or 300 million.
Would it be different?
It would, of course, be different.
I'm not saying
because culture emanates from populations, and culture can. And here's the thing:
it would be better. It would be better. We have more people working. We have more people employed. We have more people who are contributing to the economy. We have more people who are contributing to taxes. Okay, yes, will there be social turmoil? Of course, but where's that coming from, right? The social turmoil is probably coming from Republicans. Like, okay, we're not even talking about like teleporting motherfuckers over to the United States. We're not even talking about that. We are talking about, because how immigration works is that it's an overtime kind of thing. It's not like a specific, like, oh, you just teleport 300 million people over to one country at once and then boom, you can't do anything about it, right? It's very clear to me that it's like, well, it's overtime. So there's going to be time for the country to adjust and, you know, change shit as needed. It's not like you teleport 300 million over there all at once over the course of 2 seconds. But okay.
Here's the thing. I don't believe in biological essentialism. I don't believe that like people are like racially defined by their DNA.
So stupid.
I think culture changes over time. We see that in the West. Like, for example, the culture regarding, you know, women's rights 150 years ago was completely different to women's rights today. Culture does change over time, but it takes generations and it takes decades. And so if you rapidly change population in a really short time frame, like, for example, what we've seen in Australia and in Europe is that we've imported a lot of people who hate Jews into our countries. Like there was never really a native problem. Like, okay, for example, Australia now has, like, they're having Australia is launching a royal commission into anti-Semitism. There historically was not really ever this native tradition of anti-Semitism in Australia. Jews were part of the sort of founding of the country with the European settlement. And one of our greatest ever war heroes, General John Monash, was Jewish himself. And that actually meant, because of Monash's, there are people who argue because Monash was such a hero in World War I, it actually really dampened anti-Semitism in Australia. So we don't really have this native tradition of anti-Semitism, but we've had large amounts of people come in from Lebanon and from parts of the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa who actually genuinely do hate Jews. And look at what happened.
You know who's anti-Semitic the most? The MAGA motherfuckers that you support. The MAGA motherfuckers you support are like literally the most anti-Semitic people. Stephen Miller is a self-hating Jew, most likely. He's literally a Nazi. Like what is it that you want? Trump, there was a, when they raided Mar-a-Lago, Trump had a copy of Mein Kampf on his bedstand. You're telling me that a copy of Mein Kampf got teleported there? You're telling me he's studying it because he doesn't want Hitler to rise again? Or was he taking notes?
At Bondi, it was literally an immigrant guy who did it. The son was not an immigrant. He was born in Australia, but he was raised by an immigrant, and he was raised to hate Jews, and he killed 15 people. And it was a massacre. And this is unfortunately a problem if you're importing people who do have extremely different values and ideologies, etc. So I actually don't view it necessarily as a racial thing. I view it as, look, it's culture. Culture's not. I don't believe people have fully blank slates. I don't think, like, I think culture takes changes, but it takes decades. It takes a long time.
I think that you're.
He was using it to wipe his ass with? No, Trump uses the Bible to wipe his ass.
Starting it from a position that people can understand, which is we want people to assimilate culturally.
Yes.
And that
I worry if it's
differences
if it's massive volumes, it's very hard to assimilate people very.
That's possible. But I think that you're going from there to something that you're taking an extra leap, which is that therefore our policy should be race conscious.
Not race conscious, but we should only allow migrants in numbers that can assimilate. And I think my family's actually a good example of this. I've been in Australia
as a white man, as a straight white man.
That's based though? Well, if you consider using the Mein Kampf as probably a holy book to be based, then sure.
Our family were like in Australia, for my mum's side it's 4 generations, my dad's side is 3 generations. And like, basically, like, realistically, I basically don't really have much Greek culture in me. I don't speak Greek. I'm just basically fully Australian in terms of my culture. I grew up as an Australian. I fully identify with Australia. If there was ever a war between Greece and Australia, I'd fight for Australia. Like, and that's assimilation, but it takes place over a long time. And one of the reasons why my family was able to assimilate was because there weren't massive Greek ethnic enclaves that were completely cut off from the rest of society. Like Greeks today.
People said that about Italians in America.
I know, but also Italians came in such large numbers that eventually there was the Hortali. What was the exact act? 1920 something where they did actually. There was Immigration Restriction Act in the 1920s in America because
I'm not sure what you're referencing. Sorry.
there was an Immigration Restriction Act in the 1920s, I think by Taft or something like that, where they were actually responding.
You're not talking about Taft-Hartley. That's different. That's like.
Oh, sorry, I might have missed it up, but there was immigration restriction in the 1920s in America because at that time they believed that there was so much. They wanted to pause immigration for a while to allow assimilation to take place because at that time there were massive ethnic enclaves in a lot of cities. There was actually ethnically associated crime with Italians. Like the reality is there was a lot of
Cosa Nostra.
Yeah, I know.
But in the long run,
yes.
What do people say? People say, "Wow, but I love our Italian neighbors."
But here's the thing,
it was worth it, right? It was just like it was worth it in your mind for those genocidal Anglo freaks to kill all the natives.
But I don't agree with that's actually a very race communist language.
Oh my God.
But
you know what I mean.
But the thing is that the reality is, and I'm saying this as a Greek Australian, like it took the Greek Australians probably like 2-3 generations to properly assimilate. It took the Italians like 2-3-4 generations to assimilate in America. It does actually take time, and look how culturally similar. Like this is the problem, right? If you look in the grand scheme of things, Italians and Greeks, I think, are not that culturally dissimilar from British or Anglos, right?
So says you now. Says you now.
Well, I think.
But ask the people.
Okay.
When they. Were.
Salty came back to the server. Interesting.
Coming.
Okay, but here's the reality though, right? Like it is probably easier for a Greek or Italian migrant to go to America than somebody who is, for example, of a completely different civilizational cultural background.
That's what they said about the Chinese immigration in the 1800s as well. But we have such a vibrant melting pot, racial melting pot of Asian cultures. We can get the most based Asian politicians from
we love our
you have Rishi Sunak, who I think you said he's almost fully assimilated into British culture.
I was responding to Nazis who were saying he was not British, and I was saying no, he's actually British. He's basically
fully assimilated.
Oh, he's basically fully assimilated.
Basically fully, but not fully.
Well, yeah.
Misaki, are you ready? Are you ready to Stella Montes our way to victory?
Oh God.
You ready to blast people until they die? Until they cry and scream and beg for mercy?
Somewhat, yeah.
Good, you're ready.
Because he's brown.
I didn't say that.
But then why would he not be?
I was actually Pisco. I was actually responding to the Nazis who were saying that he could never be British.
Right, but so responding to them, you conditioned it. You didn't say he's a fully British. You said
he's fully British culturally. He is fully British culturally.
Oh, but racially not Anglo. Obviously.
Well, he's obviously racially not English. Yes. But
okay,
like English is an ethnicity.
So in terms of immigration policy, you do want to see Democrats or center left people take a stronger stance in reducing it.
You have to reduce migration to a level that you can actually assimilate people, and I think also there should be an emphasis on culturally similar countries. Because I think it is difficult, like, I believe that China is its own civilization. I believe that, Islam is its own civilization. And they've had amazing civilizational achievements. I was at the American Natural History Museum. I was walking through the Muslim section, of Muslim history. And it's funny because, like, that museum is a little bit cancelled. It's like maybe 100 years old or whatever. But, like, I was going through, it was describing Islam as a civilization that had amazing achievements. And it's true. Like, they helped invent mathematics and all these things. This is literally true.
Some of the...
Yeah, I agree.
Texts.
I do believe civilizations actually exist. Like, Islam is a civilization. I was walking through the China section.
The Persian civilization.
Yeah, Persian civilization. I was walking through the China section. Everyone knows, like, I've got this long history of opposing the Chinese Communist Party or whatever. But I was going through the China section. I was like, it is amazing. I did think to myself, it's like an amazing civilization. It genuinely is. And I do think people can assimilate. It is possible to assimilate. But when you come...
Western loyalists.
Like my primarily, I identify as a Westerner. I love the West. So, and I do think people from different civilizations can come to the West and assimilate. I just think we have to do it in a manageable way where people can assimilate.
And legally, has to be done legally.
And legally, yeah.
Yeah. So
my brother legally immigrated to America, and I would not have, if he wanted to do it illegally, I would have opposed that. I don't think anybody should.
Would you have called ice on him?
No, I wouldn't have called. Like, I don't know.
So another one of these.
Oh, wasn't like Elon Musk? God, wait, hold on. Does anybody know whether or not Drew Pavlou worships Elon Musk or not? I'm like, he has to, right? Like, everybody who does this like grift thing, I feel like eventually they always end up like worshiping Elon Musk's like feet. Like they'll bend the knee, they'll fucking pull their hair back, and they'll kiss the ring or suck their dick. I don't know.
Like people who are against law and order, you're not even gonna call.
You wouldn't call ice on your own brother.
Yeah.
But look, at the end of the day, he immigrated legally. He's an Australian guy. But if he had done it illegally, I would have told him that's fucking wrong, and I would have said to him, I don't support you. He did do it legally. But it's true. If he'd done it illegally, I wouldn't have told you. I would have said,
Democrats are not for open borders. Can you at least give us that? The Democrats are for open borders. I mean, you cited Bernie as one of your inspirations.
Okay. Here's the thing, though, right?
You still respect Bernie? You still respect him?
In some ways, I do strongly disagree with him on others. But you know what's amazing? Like, if you looked at that famous exchange between him and Ezra Klein, though, like that exchange was famous because Ezra Klein, who's kind of like, you would have to admit, he's probably like a leading sort of intellectual figure of the moderate faction.
Times, so the chagrin of many lefty communists.
And he's not a communist order, but he treated it as crazy that Bernie said that there should be like a border.
No, wait, no. I didn't actually watch the interview, but I watched the clip.
Wait, what? You sure about that, motherfucker? You sure about that? Like, who's to say? I bet that if I were to search up specifically what Drew Pavlou is talking about, I'm not going to find even close, like even remotely as close as what he's saying right now. Hold on. Dude, shut the fuck up, okay? Put the ammo in the gun. Okay. Oh. I like how you included the B. Good one. Open borders as a caution. The box covers. The burning of one are an embarrassment of climate change. Okay, I don't. Okay, okay, it's not top results.
But Bernie's saying you got to give Trump credit for the border.
No. I'm talking.
That's stupid, Bernie.
No, I'm actually talking about like back in 2015. So Ezra Klein was interviewing Bernie in like the 2016 primary, and he said like, what do you think of open borders? And like Bernie just instinctually was like, that's a crazy idea. It's a Koch brother idea. And Ezra Klein, if you look at it, like Ezra Klein,
what did he say?
Ezra was shocked. He was like, really, are you sure? And like, because him and Matthew Iglesias, like they've come around. Obviously, it's such a politically toxic idea that they've now said like we don't support it anymore.
Wait, is Ezra Klein pro open borders? Wait, is he?
But there's a time where like Matthew Iglesias and Ezra Klein were both arguing that.
Oh my god, I just don't trust anything these guys say. These guys are like some of the most dishonest fucks that has ever existed in history ever. Like they are literally scum of the earth.
Like basically immigration is always good. There's never a period where it could ever be too much. And like Iglesias was obviously like saying there should be 1 billion Americans.
Yeah, but they come about it from different traditions.
And Ezra actually...
I want to mention this. They come about it from different traditions. You have the Bernie tradition, which is open borders is a trick by capital.
No, Bernie's position is rich people bad, poor people good.
It's a trick by capital to depress wages and reduce worker rights. Then you have, and then I want to also the distillation from...
The billionaire class has stolen enough from the American people. We have to bring back manufacturing. Thank you, Bernie. Shut the fuck up, please.
Ezra, which I thought was great from an interview with Vivek Ramaswamy, who I want to get your take on as well.
I think Vivek. I want to quickly say I don't like the gropers being mean to Vivek based on his race. I think Vivek is very culturally American. I think he's very culturally American.
You say that.
I do think that about
Vivek. Of what? Because he speaks with no accent.
No, he's somebody.
He went to law school. And
his full loyalty is to America, and he obviously identifies strongly with American culture.
So then that's what it is. So to be an American, that's just I want to.
I think the core thing is you have to have like your primary loyalty has to be to the adopted country to the point that you'd be willing to like literally.
Oh, okay. So we can just go ahead and deport Trump and his entire cabinet then, right? Their primary loyalty has to be to the country. Well, their loyalty is to Russia. They're not loyal to the United States.
Fight for it if your home country was going to war. Like, look at Eisenhower, right? Eisenhower, German name, fought the Germans in World War II. That was the prime example of assimilation. Literally the prime example. Like, America's leading general in the Western Front in World War II.
And you're the prime example of stupidity. You're the prime example of mental retardation.
Was a German guy.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So you've got to have that level of loyalty, and you've got to basically strongly identify with the Western culture.
So I identified one virtue of anti-open borders from Bernie, which is a capital focused.
There's that capital thing.
From the MAGA perspective, let me finish this. Ezra charts out 3 different sort of impulses.
His was like a utilitarian thing. Like he believed. I think Ezra believes in. Back then he believed in open borders.
Ezra characterizes these different strains of anti-immigrant thought. From the perspective of Trump, it's they're poisoning the blood of the people.
I didn't say poisoning the blood of the people.
I know you didn't say that.
Yeah.
From the perspective of someone like J.D. Vance, it's focused on domestic labor from the from the perspective of protectionism. In that sense, it's somewhat aligned to the Bernie vision, but a little bit more focused on Americans as opposed to the struggle between class that is more focus of Bernie Sanders. And then finally, you have the Vivek strain, which I'm seeing you more strongly align with. And that has to do with more like, it needs to be orderly, it needs to be slow, it needs to be legal, but it needs to be in sufficient numbers to help us and to help Americans.
And it has to assimilate.
And there needs to be assimilation.
Yeah.
Vivek is losing that argument.
I agree, he is losing that. Look, I'm against the gropers. He's losing it to the gropers, and I'm against the gropers.
The administration isn't going with the Vivek strategy as much as people might claim.
I think Vivek did not help his own case by going out and saying that, like, he said that thing, that high school thing where it was possible for many people to interpret that, and even I don't hate Vivek, but I interpret it this way, that he was kind of saying that white Americans were lazy, and I think that's pretty bad, and I think that's not a sign of, you know, good faith. I think that's a pretty strong element as well. I think people
sometimes there's just like fucking victim complex from white Americans and this fucking like
no,
I just want to say I'm gonna want to soy out and be a lefty right now.
This is so annoying.
Oh my god, the poor white people. What are we like?
But
stop babying.
But that's you for other. That's you for all non-whites. That's you for all non-whites.
No, I don't. No, I do. When do I say? Oh, I mean, there was a time, I think, when it was a kind of identity politics. I never agree with identity politics. I'm not like that. But the kind of like you were mean to whiteys because you said something about high school bullies. Get over it.
Like the Democrats.
Get over it.
The Democrats spent like mainstream Democrats spent 10 years telling like young white men that they were evil from birth.
Mainstream Democrats?
Yes.
Mainstream Democrats? What is this ninja talking about?
Many mainstream Democrats.
Who the fuck said that?
Like, dude, like Ilhan Omar said that like white men were the greatest threat to the country. And,
okay, you picked the most extreme example.
She's a mainstream Democrat.
She's on the far.
She is. Oh my god. Oh my god. I can't. No, I can't do this. No more. I'm good. I'm done. Let me just move on to the next segment and then we can start the game. Dude, I can't do this. This is horrible. Is that Aiden Ross? I wish. Aiden Ross is probably smarter than Drew Pavlou, actually. Drew Pavlou. Can't do it. I can't do it. Okay, well, good luck. Anti-fan shit. Ross's long lost brother. Okay. Oops, sorry.